Alright, Shalom.
Shalom.
First and foremost, before we begin, we like to give all praise, all glory, all honor unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakah Kodash. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. As always, we like to say Shalom unto the elect.
Shalom to the elect.
There's a couple of your brothers here.
Mayasha Allah.
And Isaiah. We come out to do today. Right? Yeah, what we come out to do today, right? So bring out some edification, Lord. Well, it is edifying on what is going to take place with this entire situation. And the situation I'm referencing is the recent airstrike which America took on Venezuela, in which they captured their president and his wife, and where the vice president would have been flown to Russia, right? So ultimately, where does this all lead, right? So no, we know, right, pursuant to prophecy, World War III mention of it in the scriptures, but something important has to take place before World War III could take place. What is that? The MOTB must be implemented within the four corners of the earth. You could start with that, you could get Revelation 13 and verse 16. Go ahead. If you have it in your mind, so you can bring it out so you can go into the words one time.
Only my son on this.
Right.
Revelation 13 and 16. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 600, 66.
Right. So see in here, verse 16, the mark of the beast, it's surrounding buying and selling. So like you have verse 17, right, that no man might buy or sell, right? And we know the way in which currency, or the final evolution of money, right, it ends up to digital currency, which they plan to implant something within your hand, right? Verse 16, that mark, right, that Karax or Salakia, Karagma, Salakia, Karagma, because the Karax, right, is what they're going to use to implant the Karagma, right, because the Karax is the impricking tool, right, and the Karagma is the thing within the mark within the impricking tool which you implant and insert it in the skin, right? Right.
It's the Greek Strong's 5480. Charagma, a stamp, an imprinted mark of the mark stamped on the forehead or the right hand as the badge of the followers of the anti-Mashiach. The mark branded upon horses, thin carved sculpture, graven work of idolatrous images.
Right. So ultimately that goes back to your RFID, microchip, and your Neuralink, right? The one for the forehead is a Neuralink. You could research Musk with that one, and then you could research the RFID, but all of this going to be surrounding buying and selling. And if you do your research into Venezuela and the banking system, them don't have CBDCs nor the infrastructure to run CBDCs, which is central bank digital currency, right? Which that is what they want to use to change all the world currency into a CBDC, right? Which will be then controlled via the ones in control are your Rothschild, the Rockefellers, the beast, and them aim to control you using that microchip, right? But before all of that could take place, or Salakia, all of that has to take place before war kicks off, because the intended way for this war to end is via them nuclear missiles, right? Then I get Isaiah the 13th chapter, right? And Isaiah 13 and let me get to that. Isaiah 13 and right, from 17, it says, Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. Right, so you're not going to be able to make a deal with these Medes, and we know the Medes actually references the Russians within Scripture, because the Russians dwelling in the land with the Medes was living in biblical times, right? So when Isaiah got the vision, when the other prophets got the vision, they would have seen people dwelling in that land, and they couldn't call them Russians in the Scripture. The word Russia, when numbers writing down what they were seeing, they couldn't write Russia because Russia is in
The English language.
yeah, it's the English language, and them then have the English language accessible to them, so they had a right to the sea. Right, they know that land would be the land in which it meets dwelling in. So now you have to be able to tie with them see, right, and with them right down to what happening today. So with the Medes and prophecies, the Russians, right? So it says, he will stir up the Medes against them. So that's why we could sit here and see this is where this is headed, right? And not just the Medes alone. When you get Obadiah, the first chapter, and verse 7, it says, All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee, that they that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. Right? So you see, right, so you see here, this is what this is going to lead to, right? But first, all of the whole world's, economy has to come to one, which they're already in agreement. They're just waiting for the chaos to come to bring the order, right? Mm-hmm. That this MOTB must be first implemented, and then shit go and hit the fan in terms of war, right? So after that, we could see it according to biblical prophecy. Because think about it. If shit hit the fan and war begins before the MOTB is implemented, and we know how this war is going to end, I'll go back to Isaiah 13 to show you how this war is going to end. How could you then implement the MOTB? Because the ending of this war is dependent on taking the MOTB. When you go to Isaiah 13, finishing, I think I was at verse 18 now. Their bows shall also shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eyes shall not spare children. But Salakia, looking for where to say, right, Salakia was higher up in the verse, higher up in the chapter, right? I'll start at verse 4, Isaiah 13 and 4. It says, The noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people. A tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts must say the hosts of the battle. So Isaiah 13 from 4, and you could read Zephaniah 3 and 8 one time, Babakasha. Because we see in the Lord's determination and what the Lord intends to do with this whole, because it's the Lord staying it up, right? Because you could, after you read this Zephaniah 3 and 8, you could get Ezekiel 38 and verse 10, 11 around there. It says you put an evil thought. To read this Zephaniah.
The Zephaniah 3 and verses 8. Therefore wait ye upon me, saith Yahweh, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger. For all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy.
Right, and how the Lord does pour out the anger, his fury. Nahum 1 and 6, the Lord fury is poured out like fire. Right? So when you read now, the Ezekiel 38 and from verse again, verse 10. Read from 10.
In Ezekiel 38 and 10, thus saith Yahweh power. It shall also come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought. And thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls, and having neither bars nor gates.
Right, so you're seeing this taking place. This is the evil thought is going to come into the minds and the meats, because this chapter began with the Lord addressing Gog and Magog and Chief Prince, right? Chief Prince in the Hebrew, Ra-ah-Shah, right? Shah and Prince is Shah, Chief is Ra-ah, right? So when they go into that, Ra-ah-Shah is how you would say Russia in the Hebrew, right? Or, oh yeah, that's how you would say Russia in Hebrew, right? So this chapter was addressing the Russians and the Russians Confederacy, which they're going to build in order to take down these Americans, right? Because think about it. Russia and China had diplomatic relations with the Venezuelans, right? Them had deals in place with Venezuela. Venezuela is supposed to be, I believe, if they ain't already joined, they was supposed to be joined and allied with the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And America just conducted an airstrike over, Russian diplomatic relations, and the Russians have done nothing to respond, right? Because that evil thought has not come up in their mind as yet. The Lord didn't allow that evil thought to come in their mind as yet, because this MOTB needs to be implemented, and then all hell will break loose, right? Or rather, there's all hell going to break loose in order for the MOTB to be implemented, and then World War III could take place. If World War III is to take place before the MOTB get implemented, it wouldn't line up. It wouldn't make sense, because how would you implement it when everybody's at war, right? So you go now.
Well, everybody shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh.
Right. So when you go now, because MOTB is designed to bring that peace and safety within your mind, right? When you go to the 11th verse, it talks about the land of unwalled villages, because you see in America, right? Habakkuk 2 and 5, he gathered unto himself all nations, and he put unto himself all people, he and everybody business, all across the world, the military and the Middle East, the military over here in the West, the military all over the world. That means if you could research it, that means the country that have the most foreign military bases in each, and I don't believe, I think this also is backed up by research, you could research it, that there's no other land, no other country or no other nation that has a military base within Babylon. Right, so them all up in everybody's business, and that is going to lead to what the military is going to be spread thin. Right, same way the Roman Empire fell, same way seen with Babylon, the military is going to be spread thin. That is why their country is known as the land of unwalled villages. Right, because they're not going to have a defense against the Russians when the Russians do decide to shoot them nuclear missiles. Because now we're going to go to that. Because this is what this is all headed to. Right.
Yeah. Oh, it's like it's still only 38?
No, Isaiah 13 and 5 and it says they come from a far country, Russia, from the end of heaven, right? Because the end of heaven, right? From the west, the furthest point or the furthest end of heaven reference in the sky will be all over there in the east, and that's where Russia dwelling now. They say they come from the end of heaven, even the Lord Yahweh Shem Shai, and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land. Right, so that is where this is going to head to. Right, this is where this is. You could see the Lord is ready to destroy Babylon. That time series and the Russians and attack, because that will lead to war. That will lead to war. That evil thought has clearly not come into the mind yet, because that will lead to war. Right, so all the things had to be implemented for the MOTB to be administered, and then shit will hit the fan. Right, so you could go ahead.
Right. So there's the book of Revelation, chapter 11 and verses 14. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. And what we seeing that this is definitely gonna lead to the third woe.
Right, because Salakia, remember the third war literally came past because the second war goes back to war. The second war is the Second World War, and the third war coming quickly. That was the Cold War. So this war is a revival of the Cold War actually, which was the Soviet Union, the Russians at the time versus the Americans. You can go ahead.
Yes, no. Because I wanted to ask this question to ChatGPT, right? Can you give us a brief synopsis of the current events that are taking place between America and Venezuela? And there are news articles as well. Here's a brief, up-to-date overview of the major events currently unfolding between the United States and Venezuela as of early January 2026. Major U.S. military action. The United States recently launched a large-scale military operation in Venezuela with airstrikes and ground actions aimed at key targets in and around Caracas. In a dramatic escalation, Venezuelan President Maduro and his wife Celia Flores were captured by U.S. forces and flown to the U.S., where Maduro is set to face federal drug trafficking and narco-terrorism charges. The U.S. administration has framed the operation as part of a counter-narcotics effort and a push to remove a leader it considers illegitimate. The new Venezuelan leadership and diplomatic moves following Maduro's capture. Delcy Rodriguez, Maduro's vice president and close ally, has been appointed interim president by Venezuela's Supreme Court and military support. Rodriguez has publicly signaled willingness to work with the U.S. and pursue a more diplomatic relationship, even as she condemns the military operation itself.
Right, so they get there's a regime change. Right, so the man who wasn't in favor or willing to do a deal with the Babylonians, right, they get he up out of there and put instead of next a puppet leader as often is a, if you know your history, this is a how you say, not reliving, but how you say, this is history repeating itself concerning what America did in the Middle East. Right? This is exactly the same tactics they use in the Middle East. Where they take to get control over the Middle East and America's interest within the Middle East with the oil. That is the same thing which is being played off today again. Getting rid of people who not in alignment. So like you're getting rid of people who not in alignment with what they believe in and serving Babylon the Great and then selling the puppet leaders. Right, so that is taking place here again, all over again. But that when it comes to an end, the scripture talk about the weak say I'm strong. Right, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Right.
Ask our next question. They say, I'll read the summary. In summary, major escalation in U.S.-Venezuela relations has occurred with U.S. military strikes and the capture of President Maduro, ongoing legal proceedings in the U.S., a new interim government in Venezuela, and an active international reactions all unfolding amid competing narratives about sovereignty, drug trafficking, and regional security.
Right.
Yes, no. Right. Here's a clear summary of the major international effects unfolding as a result of the recent military strike in Venezuela and the capture of President Maduro. Diplomatic relations, divisions, and condemnations. Many countries strongly condemn the U.S. action as a violation of international law and sovereignty. Wait is I have made Esau bear, right? Jeremiah 49:10, and then it have what? The precept in Malachi 1 and 4 speaks about what? The they shall be known as the border of wickedness. So what? Psalms talk about the man who have war in his heart.
The scripture talk about we should think about doleful lamentation against you and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his.
So right.
Woe to him that they himself will take place.
Right. They many countries strongly condemn the U.S. action as a violation of international law and sovereignty.
Latin literally have a law. I can't remember the name of it right now, where things like this taking place. Well, America said they will not interfere with business in Europe, and Europe said they will not interfere with business that taking place and over here in the West. So like, so America not gonna go over from the West and go over to the East in Europe and
do business
or engage in wars over there. Is a law. I can't remember the name of the law. And the Europeans have also agreed to that as well, but both of them break that treaty. Right, so you see that America the flexing the muscle and scripture make mention of them as being the hammer of the youth. Right? Because what them pulled off last night, I saying last night, so like what them pulled off at the turn of this year, the beginning of this year, no other nation would dare do that to them. At least not yet. Right?
Latin American governments like Brazil and Mexico declared the strikes crossed a red line and threatened regional peace, demanding respect for Venezuelan independence. China and Russia described the U.S. strike as aggression and a blatant violation of international norms, undermining global stability. Iran, Cuba, and other allied states likewise condemned the action, urging international pushback. Some Western governments expressed concern about legality but are more cautious with it. The weak saying the strong no. Because what? Eventually it's gonna come to a high point or a breaking point. The pot gonna boil over just now and everybody gonna say fuck America. Wait is I believe it says that in Revelation. The beast shall hate the whore.
Revelation 17 chapter 16.
You figured read that for me.
Book of Revelation 17.
Because funny enough it mentioned what China and Russia, right? Moab. There'll be no Moab proud and Esau is most proud. So what I proud and most proud together. Going against the proudest nation that has ever existed. Bourgeois, the capital of Edom. Wait is Russia as well. Though if you read the Ezekiel 38, I don't know if you read it in any of the precepts, where it says, be thou a God unto them.
Yeah, like Ezekiel 38 and 4.
Right, so what? Be thou a God unto them.
So like, I don't expect it to stay so.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to stay so. Forget expect. The prophecy. The prophecy is at the implementation of the MOTB, then shit go and hit the fan.
Right, so they're not gonna sit and see the allies be bombed and have nothing to say.
Exactly, and be that so
because the entire world is going to come against this war. Right, the Revelation 17 and 16 and it says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast,
right,
referencing the NATO and the EU, these shall hate the whore and shall make her desolate and naked and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Right, so there's ultimately with this heading, but the fire what they're talking about here is the penance for the taking of the MOTB in Revelation 14 chapter.
Right.
It's the same fire. It's not different fire. It's not that no. It's not they're gonna shoot nukes on them and then
firing all the men to the MOTB.
And then shoot nukes on them.
The judgment of America is the judgment for taking the MOTB. So what you could fully expect this year, if things continue in the stead that they're continuing in, if that cruel Lord continues to be cruel and continues to oppress his people, it is Sirach talk about children shall complain of an ungodly father. If this man continues to be more and more ungodly as we expect him to, you could very well see what in this quintessential, it's quincentennial. Is it? I want to say, hope I say the word correct, but you know the word for 200 semi-quincentennial. I think that's the word. But what? Saying what? 250 years, right? As we know, the beloved Elder Apostle Taha always brings out that a nation, kingdom, empire always what? Always lasts about 250 years. And this year marks 250 years on the 4th of July that what? America hath been established as a nation. So be that as it may, what
Today,
does Salah?
I'm not to cut you off, Salaka. MOTB could well be implemented this year.
Exactly. What does that mean? That means according to the numbers we are accustomed to seeing when you go through world history, America don't have long again. So what? You could very well expect that the very said end time prophecies that we've been speaking about throughout the years, what? Jacob's trouble, MOTB, World War III, nuclear missiles, chariots, um,
All I come
so like lifting up the standard, everything that comes in Jacob's trouble, what the persecution of the men of the Lord, that Revelation 2:10. The Lord again lifting up that standard where Michael gonna have to stand for the children of Israel in them perilous times, which had never before been seen, no nor ever shall be, as Matthew 24, I believe, verses 21 says. What are gonna cause? Everything that we've been speaking about, you could very well see all of that come to a height and come to a head, go over the red line and boil over the pot, and you could all see all the prophecies come crashing down in one. It is
one prophecy leads to another.
right. So what?
So the beast eating the whole leads to the whole being naked and burned with fire.
Right.
And then the MOTB leads to the whole being naked and burned with fire. So one has to come before another, and all of them leading to the same end.
Because what the end is then what? Revelation 14, 9 and 10. If any man, if you could bring all that.
Yeah, you close it up.
Yeah.
The book of Revelation 14 verse 9, it says, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand,
Right.
the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of power, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb.
And that is the key point right there. Esau is the end of the world, Jacob the beginning of it that follow it, which is and what? Yeah, and it spoke about in 1 Corinthians 15, speaks about what? Then come at the end, when Mashiach shall have delivered up the kingdom to power, even the Father Yahweh, saying what? That the end of this world is the return, and is the return of Mashiach, the beginning of the next world to come, because he has to start at what? And the first and the last. He's the first king. So what? And he's gonna be the first king of the new world and the last king of this world, because he's gonna take what Revelation 19 spoke about, and he had crowns on his head, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. No, that Revelation 6 is he had crowns on his head, went forth conquering and to conquer. And Revelation 19 speaks about him being what? The King of Kings. So he's the one that's gonna end this world. And he, at his appearance, what does he have to witness? Isaiah 63 speaks about him going straight to Bozrah, and as we have read in that Revelation 14, it speaks about what? In the presence of the Lamb. So you can expect to see a lot of things this year, leading up to that what? Our final coming of Hamashiach. All these things we expect. It is I believe it's Isaiah speak about it, giving you an expected end. If you can give me that, and we can close with that. Because all these prophecies, all the things we see in playing off today is what? To give us what? What we expect to see. The end of this world. Because what is the great this world, what? This heaven and this earth are gonna pass away with a great noise. Right?
Jeremiah 29 and verse 11, it says,
Yep.
for I know the thoughts that I think toward you,
Right.
said the Lord Yahweh Shai, thoughts
Right.
of peace and not of evil,
Right.
to give you an expected end.
Right, and again, the end is the return of Mashiach, and we expect to see him. And what we know, the state that the world gonna be in upon his return, and what the world definitely heading towards that state currently. So what everything that we've been speaking about and everything that we've been talking about, literally, as Eliashua likes to say, what the prophecy is now jumping off the page, and now we're getting into the point where it is we had to live it. So, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying and that you were edified. In closing, we like to give all glory, all honor, and all praises unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rachakodash, Barakatum. Like to give double honors, double unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who surely do rule well. To the men standing by the highways and byways pushing this doctrine, we like to say Shalom.
Shalom.
And even unto the sincere Akwat, the sisters who sit listening in silence, subjection and obedience unto their husbands, we like to say Shalom. This was your brothers
Isaiah.
and your brother Maya Sha'ala. Till next time we say Shalom.
Shalom.